Years later, we're going to be asking ourselves, where were you when? Where were you when? We've had moments in our lives like that, 10/7, 9/11. This week, people have said the Six-Day War. But where were you when? The clergy, including myself, we were up on the Karsh Terrace on the 5th floor on Thursday afternoon when our 8th graders were graduating from Sinai Akiba Academy. These young 8th graders are speaking about their connection, deep connection to Jewish history over these last 8 years in these hallways, and how when just a month ago they walked the land of Israel, they became the next torchbearers of tradition from generation to generation. And yes, as graduation concluded, everybody's phone began blowing up with notifications. And of course, within seconds, we all saw, as these young kids were graduating Jewish day school in 2025 in Los Angeles, the news of Israel preemptively attacking Iran, eliminating leaders of the IRGC, as well as scientists. News coming so fast that we couldn't keep up with it. And at the same time, sirens blaring in the land of Israel, families and millions of people forced to literally live in shelters. Sinai Temple members calling clergy worried about their own families still in Iran. Other Sinai Temple members who had just gone to Israel after their schools ended, about to celebrate B'nai Mitzvah in the hotel in Jerusalem, but yesterday sending us pictures from shelters and safe rooms as they left their hotels, still celebrating Shabbat and reciting Kiddush and Motzi. News has moved so fast these past 48 hours. Hundreds of drones knocked out of the air from Iran to Israel, followed by, of course, direct attacks hit in the Tel Aviv and surrounding areas. And as of at least when I walked in this sanctuary this morning, 3 Israeli civilians killed. But I'm not going to go on and on because a pulpit is not a news desk, and you can get the news faster and better than I can give it to you. But a bima is a place for Torah, and a bima is a place for spirituality. And so, like any good rabbi does, we will ask a question. We will ask the same question that we have asked for the last 615 days, and that question is, now what? And the answer to now what I found from this same bima 10 years ago. In 2015, Rabbi Wolpe stood here during the last nuclear negotiations between the United States and Iran, and I always remember those words that he said. He said, I don't care if you are for the deal or against the deal, because tomorrow there will be something that each one of us have to come together tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is today, and today is now. Rabbis have prepared to give this sermon for years and years, and we didn't know when we were going to need to give it. Because we understand that when a rocket falls on Tel Aviv, it doesn't distinguish between right and left in politics, or Orthodox and conservative and Reform and Jewish denomination. It only understands that it's in the borders of the land of Israel, and it's harming the people of Israel. As Rabbi Wolpe tweeted yesterday, a nuclear Iran would combine the 2 horrors of the 20th century, Hiroshima and Auschwitz. And I know that some of you have gone on March of the Living, and you have walked in that place called Auschwitz. And in Auschwitz, you see a map on the wall, and there are train tracks leading from all around Europe to Auschwitz. And every time you go there, the tour guide asks, what if? What if the Allies had bombed those train tracks? How many Jews would be alive today? But this morning, we do not have to ask what if, but instead, because we have a people of Israel, we ask now what? It's only day 2 of a mission that we do not know how long it will last. But just like these 615 days that have come before us, we do know one thing, that we cannot do this alone. And we will not, because over those hundreds of days, we also have seen the friends that we do have. Over these past 615 days, people that have stood in this sanctuary on our bima, in our social halls, we have met released hostages and we have met families of hostages still in captivity, families of them. We have met Nova survivors and we have met victims of October 7th. Just 3 days ago, some of you were with me when we met the mayor of Sderot, Alon Davidi, who explained to us what it means to lead a city in constant trauma, 1 kilometer from the Gaza border. And day after day, we are meeting new friends who are Jewish and not Jewish, who sometimes pay a hefty price, not only to stand with the Jewish people, but to do the work that we need to do with them. People like a Catholic, Patricia Heaton, who stood on this bima that only went to Israel for the first time after 10/7. People like the Christian pastor, Reverend Johnny Moore, who stood with us on October 14th and went with us to Washington, D.C. in the national rally, and just this past week, you may have seen, has been named the executive chairman of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. These people not only say they stand with Israel, but they do things to be there for us. Jewish basketball coaches like Bruce Pearl in Christian, Alabama, who calls on his platform of millions to release hostages, specifically Idan Alexander from the United States, just weeks before he returned to his home in New Jersey. And people locally like Pastor Paul Foster of Faithful Central Bible Church, and Pastor Michael Fisher of Greater Zion Church, and Pastor Terrence Taylor of Breath of Life LA of the African American community, who celebrate our common values of faith. But these relationships do not fall out of thin air. They happen because we are Jews in America, and we know that we have the responsibility, yes, to care for each other, but also to care for them as well. We care for them when they are in trouble and when they are in fear, and they care for us when we are in trouble and we are in fear. And that lesson is shown so beautifully in our Torah reading this morning. As the Jews are in the wilderness, Vayihi b'nso Aharon, the ark is carried with the people. What is in this aron? The rabbis say it's the luchot, it's the tablets. And which set of tablets? It's not the second set that Moshe brings down whole, but rather it's the first set that is broken. The rabbis say you should have had the whole set of tablets there. Why the broken ones? And they explain, because it references the golden calf. And what was the sin of the golden calf? It removed sacredness from humanity. It removed sacredness from humanity. There was a rabbi, Henry Hochschender, that wrote in 1969, if humankind can send rockets to the moon, do they need divine guidance to establish a code of proper behavior? 1969, he was speaking about different types of rockets. Today we have different rockets being hurled across borders into the Jewish state. But the real fight is not about weapons. It's about the fight for the code of moral behavior. Hours after that graduation and the attack on Iran began, I had the great privilege of working with our 11th and 12th grade Barron scholars. These are young people who are in high school ready to go to the college campus, and for the last year they have learned with me from the experts in the field about combating anti-Semitism, but most importantly about forming allyships. And it just happened that our last dinner with our guest speaker was on Thursday, and the guest was Sarah Idan, more famously known as Miss Iraq. Miss Iraq was born in Baghdad as a practicing Muslim. And when she got to the Miss Universe pageant in Las Vegas, of all places, who did she meet? Miss Israel. And with the simple click of a camera, she put out to the world Miss Iraq and Miss Israel, a Muslim and a Jew sitting or standing together. And what was her gift for that? The revocation of her Iraqi citizenship. But just after that incident, Miss Iraq, Sarah Idan, was invited to speak in Israel. When she entered the Waldorf Astoria Hotel and she saw the Arab who was helping her take her bags, she asked him, "What are you doing here?" And he said to her, "This too is my home. where Jews and Arabs and Muslims and Christians lived together. That is when she understood why Israel was her cause. And this is what she wrote on Thursday on her social media platform, not to the Jewish community, but in fact to the Muslim world. She said, "This is why Israel will be my cause, because if Israel falls, so do our most basic human rights. We, true Muslims, will never again allow our freedoms to be hijacked." The message of the broken tablets. This historic, momentous occasion that we have witnessed with our own eyes on Thursday is not simply about a Jewish state and the people of Israel, but it is a moment of all faiths to come together, to triumph over evil and to ensure that the world that our children will live in, is not the world that we live in now. For why else would Sarah Idan risk her own security to put that out to the Arab world? And why would Iranian activist Masih al-Nejad, who's not Jewish, write in the Free Press yesterday that the commanders that Israel eliminated may just be names to so many, and I know they are not only names to this community, but for the people of Iran, they are the monsters, she wrote, who have terrorized my family. She said, "This is why many Iranians today are not mourning despite the uncertainty ahead." We as a Jewish community must embrace people like this, not only to call out evil, but who bravely decide to uphold the code of moral behavior. But we must also reach out to them in times of need. When our neighbors are here in Los Angeles in fear, they too should hear our voices of humanity. When the Palestinian flag is waved in protest in 2020, and as we saw this week again, we need to have the nuance and courage to separate what we see on the streets still with the need of those people in fear, and do our jobs to continue to instill that moral code of behavior. Our Haftarah this morning concluded with words, "Not by might, not by power, but by Spirit alone." When the dust settles, we're going to face another day after. And we are going to need our spirits and our souls to do this important work. We will need more Sarah Idans and Masih al-Nejads. We'll need more Reverend Johnny Moores and Pastor Fosters. We'll need more Patricia Heatons and more and more and more. We'll need Black and Latino pastors and their congregations to not simply survive, but to thrive in the years ahead. Every morning after our Amidah, besides on Shabbat, we say personal supplication prayers called Tachanun. We say these words: Shomer Yisrael, guardian of Israel. Shemor She'erit Yisrael, guard the remnant of Israel. Ve'al Yovad Yisrael, do not let Israel perish. Ha'omrim, Shema Yisrael, for those who say, "Hear Israel." We, you, me, all of us, in this sanctuary, watching online, Jews around the world, we are Shomrim Yisrael, we are the guardians of Israel. We are She'erit Yisrael, we are the remnants of Israel. We are the ones who will not let Israel perish. Because as we know, what begins with the Jews never ends with the Jews. But I want to flip that on its head this morning. Because what we saw on Thursday morning, what began with the people of Israel, I pray will not end with the people of Israel. Rather, it will be a moment in history that will lead to the freeing of the Iranian people from the Islamic regime. It will be a moment of history when the Palestinians are freed from the rule of Hamas. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors went through the Midbar, the wilderness, with those broken tablets, with a simple hope that they would enter the promised land and those tablets would become whole again. Let's do our part this Shabbat. Yes, we can cheer from the sidelines. We can vote forever who we want to. But we also have to do. We have to call our neighbor that we may not know. We have to call our friend or even call our friend's pastor. We have to call our city councilor. We have to call our congressional leaders. Because let us, just like our ancestors, let us use the brokenness that we all felt on Thursday, but also the hope that we feel, to reach out to those who we may not know well, but who have the potential to help us grow in goodness and humanity, so that one day, when our grandchildren ask us, "What did you do to help set them free?" you will answer, "Shomer Yisrael, I was the guardian of Israel, and you can be too." Shabbat Shalom.